Thank you so much, Pallavi, for the warm introduction and engaging the audience while we were sorting out some of the technical glitches in this virtual environment. Next, we have someone very, very special. And before I call him on stage and introduce him, there's a small video that Isan has made as introduction. So I'm going to share my screen and just confirm to me, Pallavi, once you're able to see my screen. Can you see a yellow background, Pallavi?
Yes, we can see.
One second. I will share it.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our keynote speaker, the very handsome and very successful Raj Kundra.
All right, thank you so much for your patience. Mr. Raj Kundra is a British Asian successful entrepreneur and a public speaker. He is the founder CEO of JL Stream, investor at Bastion Hospitality, promoter at Vian Industries Limited. Raj Kundra is a self-made entrepreneur, investor, growth expert, international deal maker, and public speaker. With over 15 years of experience specializing in trading, media, gaming, content, and technology, he's passionate about content and motivating people. He has launched a YouTube channel to share amazing stories inspired by real life heroes, events, and people promoting acts of kindness. The motivation behind the channel is to spread messages of love, gratitude, and karma. He's also a frequent public speaker, motivating and inspiring the next generations like us on startups, struggles, leadership, and values based on his own learnings. Mr. Kundra, welcome to Kaleidoscope 2020. The center virtual stage is all yours.
Thank you so much for such a lovely, warm welcome, and it's an honor to be speaking here. Firstly, I'd like to say whoever made that video for me, please, you're hired because you gave me such a lovely, warm welcome, and I don't know if I really deserve all these accolades. I am a simple guy, grounded, down to earth, born and brought up in England, and whilst it sounds so glamorous, you have to understand that my dad, when he moved to England 55 years back, started his first job as a bus conductor. Subject to people's belief that I'm from a rich father's son, everything that I've done has had an influence of seeing my father work so hard, and I'm a self-made person, and I think that's what's sort of really worked for me, because I have seen highs and lows, and I have seen times when we had to make do with just like one meal a day, to a time today where we can live a little bit of luxury. So God has been kind, and we've worked really, really hard to get to where we are. And I'll give you a little bit of background. So basically, I studied in England. I dropped out of college at the age of 17. So my father gave me an ultimatum, like most fathers do when you don't become a doctor, lawyer, or an engineer. He said, your job now is to run the family restaurant that we have. And basically my job was to wash dishes. And I did that for a couple of weeks, and I said, Dad, I'm not cut out for this. And he said, well, I didn't tell you to fail. You had the opportunity and you didn't do well. So either go back to school, college, or make something of yourself, or 6 months from today, you're going to be continuing washing these dishes. So that's when I took this 6-month breather and said, okay, Dad, either I make something of myself, or I will come back and run the family business. I wasn't as studious as I should have been, and I sometimes feel like had I studied a bit more, a lot of mistakes that I made in my career could have been avoided. But then I guess it was time to be street smart. So at the age of 17, nothing in my pocket, I applied for a credit card and somehow got a very small limit of a few £100s in those days. And I sort of set off backpacking, and I ended up in Nepal. And don't ask how, I just did. A lot of my friends said they went backpacking, it was good fun. So I ended up there thinking, look, if nothing's going to come out of this 6 months and I'm going to go back to washing dishes in my dad's restaurant, let me go out there and enjoy life for a while. So in Nepal, whilst traveling around, I ended up in a market where I saw various products, and I came across this pashmina shawl product, which I never knew what it was, but I knew that if I'm going to go back and I'm going to end up washing dishes, let me figure out a way to sweet talk someone out of it. So I knew I'd get mum on my side. So I picked up the pashmina shawl and asked the guy, look, I want to buy this. It looks like a lovely product. Tell me more about it. And as he educated me on the pashmina and how it's so special and why it's so expensive, I said, you know what, give me a catalog and swipe my credit card. I'll take as many as I can possibly get. So I got a bunch of sort of 8-10 samples. I took his color catalog and I said, look, how many can you produce? And he said, we produce at the moment 25,000 shawls a month. I said, okay, give me 2 months. I'll take out all your production and I hope that you'll have more as well. It was just a confidence call that came into me. So there I was, set back, went back to England. I had literally a month left and my dad said, so how are you doing, son? And I said, yeah, I'm doing pretty well. I've traveled, I've networked, I've made some really great contact, and I'm ready for the next stage. Gave my mom the shawl that same night and said, Mom, I have no idea what I'm going to do. But what do you think of the shawl? And she loved it. She said, hey, it's a great product. Thank you so much. And I wish you the best. You have my blessings. Then the next job came on calling people and saying, you know what, guys, I have a pashmina shawl. It's a wonderful product. So I started calling these various fashion houses from Escada to Christian Dior and the various buyers. And I'm calling from a phone at home saying, hey, my name's Raj and I'd like to show you this pashmina shawl. And funny enough, everyone kept putting the phone down on me and saying, who, where are you from? We don't know you. So then I took up a part-time job as a chauffeur, driving a cab, and went from one end to the other end, doing all these small jobs. I didn't want to fail. I knew that I wanted to get out there and do something because I did not want to come back working in my father's restaurant. And that's when I think God was kind. It was the right place at the right time. One client that I had to pick up and drop to the airport was a key buyer for a brand called Joseph's, which is a very big fashion brand in London. So I put the shawls in the back seat with the brochure, picked up this gentleman, and whilst driving to the airport, his eyes obviously set glance at the pashminas, and he started looking at them and started talking. And one thing led to another, and he said, you know what, I like this. It's amazing. What do you do? I said, hey, it's my uncle's factory in Nepal. And we make 25,000 shawls a month. And yeah, it's a great product. And I'm meeting various business fashion houses. So he said, you know what, come and meet me on Monday. And when I went to meet this gentleman on Monday, he gave me the single largest order I could imagine. And from that day onwards, there was no looking back. So I became the largest pashmina shawl importer at the age of 18 in England. And then suddenly, I think everyone else started importing shawls. They realized it's a great product. And like any trader does, the market got saturated, it got really busy. But I made my money then. I made what I had to make. I had enough to go out and do other things. I networked a lot. I met a lot of influential people from Belgium, Antwerp, New York. We'd spread our business pretty large. But realizing that the market was getting competitive, then I decided to come out of it. Because when I was in it, the margins were like 3x. And by the end of the time when I exited, the margins are single digits. So I'd made my money and I exited that venture. The networks that I made in during this pashmina shawl business took me to various parts of the world. I made some investments in Dubai into various real estate projects. I invested in exploration and mining in Chile. That really paid off well for us. And then 11 years ago, I met my wife, Shilpa, who's from Bollywood. And she said, you know what, I can't move to India, to England, because all my work is based out of India. Would you be okay to move to England, to India? Otherwise, this is not going to work. So yeah, finally I moved to India. And the last 10 years in India has been really interesting. India is not an easy place to do business in, but it is definitely the land of opportunities, and probably better than ever before with the pandemic that's come and hit us. We've learned a lot of things that, recession proof is not enough. Today, you need a business that can be pandemic proof as well. So yeah, got cracking into various startups. I invested in many startups over the last 4 or 5 years. And the most exciting one is one that I'm self-funding myself, is JL Stream. This is the logo for JL. The J and the L comes together to form a Namaste. And it's going to be India's first live streaming social media platform where anyone with any talent can stream from their house, and various people are watching them from around the world. And if they like what they see, they send virtual gifts. And the gifts, the revenue from the gifts are shared as a 50-50 venture between both. So the idea is to create at least 4, 5, 6,000 employment opportunities for people within India, and then the same amount around the world. So it's a unique proposition, and I think this is going to be one of our most exciting startups that I've ever invested in. So that's a quick nutshell in the life of Raj Kundra. It sounds easier than it was, but it is what it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raj, for that introduction about your journey, about how one Pashmina shawl, one trip to Nepal changed the way the last 20, 30 years of life has been. If I'm not wrong, you wrote a book, How Not to Make Money.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little about that? You are probably inspiring us, that the hacks of not making money, or there's something else to do with it?
Yeah, so honestly, it's based on a true story, and it was very interesting actually. So one of my investments when I was in England, we were trading in mobile phones, buying and selling. And the next thing I know, were other traders were selling the same product cheaper to me than I was buying from the actual manufacturer of the product. So we started deep diving into it and realized that there was a huge scam that was going on, where people were buying, selling the products, round tripping the products and selling it back to various vendors. And then when I sort of dug deep into it, I spent about 3-4 years and became a self-taught writer come investigative journalist. So we sort of brought down what was going on, reported it to the authorities, and that's why I decided to write the book, because it was really interesting. It was a story of a particular group of people that were doing this in a very large scale way, and their story of rags to riches, back to rags again. They all got arrested, which obviously proves that crime doesn't pay. So it was an interesting journey. I learned a lot, met a lot of interesting people. I met plumbers and electricians who were driving Ferraris, and suddenly very corporate, black tie people they'd become. So I decided to write the book because there's something that affected one of my businesses, literally crippled the business, took it down. We had to shut it down, and all because there was a whole gray market that was spoiling our business for us. So yeah, it was an interesting book. I enjoyed it, but it takes a long time to write a book. I don't think I'll do another one for a while yet.
All right, thank you so much. You have some special liking towards sports. You have been a part of various sports ventures and all of that. So what is it that about sports, which you are yourself enthusiast in terms of fitness and all of that, but how is the sports life related to you?
Yeah. So I think the best thing about sports is that it brings people together, it brings countries together. It's something that I've really enjoyed. And I just feel that India, a country with 1 billion people, has 1 or 2 or 3 sports leagues. There are more growing now since the IPL came into play. But unlike other countries with probably 20% of our population have 5, 6, 7 major sport leagues in their countries. So I believe that sports is a very important facet, and I think it should be inculcated to every school, college student to pick up these sports, because 1, it keeps you fit, 2, it keeps you off the streets and keeps you out of trouble. And 3, like I said, there are such huge opportunities today that a lot of these sports people make more money than half the businessmen do. So, before, I think parents used to look down at sports and say, guys, stop playing football, stop playing cricket, come and study. But today they realize that, the kind of money you can make in sports and the kind of name you can make is at par with any big business. So I was always passionate about sports. I invested in the Rajasthan Royals about 11 years back before I moved into India. After that, I set up India's first mixed martial arts league. And then now we have India's only official poker league. So poker is something I'm fond of, Texas Poker. I think it's a great way it's a great thing for entrepreneurs and startups to learn poker, because they always say about poker face and can you read someone's face. A lot of business learnings come out of playing poker. So it's something I enjoy. We set up the first official league in India. It's been going strong now for the last 4 years. And the team that wins from India represents Team India in the Nations Cup across the world. So it's registered by the International Poker League of Switzerland. So yeah, I've had a pretty interesting dabble into sports, and most of it has been more for passion than to make money, to be honest.
I'm sure you're making money out of it as well. Since you spoke about poker over here and the fact that we have to judge people on how they are, negotiations and conflict management is a very core aspect of any business dealings. Sure. Any one incident you want to share where you had judge someone's reaction beforehand, before the deal went through?
Before the deal went through. Yeah, I mean, many a time, because it's very easy to have that straight poker face and not be able to read through it. But there are small things that happen, and you watch that over a poker table. So over a 20, 30 hand game, 40 hand game, you'll sort of realize that when someone has a really good hand, he'll start twitching, or he'll want to put his sunglasses on because he has to hold his reaction. So likewise, when a deal's going on, you can see someone getting comfortable or uncomfortable, palms start getting sweaty, and you start seeing small things. So I think it's a good idea to look out for everything that's going around you, and not to take that decision there and then that you think it's against you and you have to close the deal. I think you've got to stand your ground. And if there's, for example, if you're selling a product and you know you can't go beyond a certain price, or there's still that 10% allowance, stand your ground. Don't go right down to the last price, because you'll probably end up coming out of that deal selling at a loss. So it's important to see what's going on around you, and capture the small things and keep watching. It's important to be alert, and I think that sort of helps.
All right, that's interesting. So your profile mentions trading, media, gaming, content, technology. Plus, you take out time for people like us and have a show with us. How do you manage your time amongst all of this?
I think it comes out of passion. Everything that you do, you have to be passionate about. So be it business, be it family, be it sports, investments, you have to be passionate about it. If you're not passionate about it, and if money is your only driver, then good luck to you. But if you're really passionate about something, and your dreams are big enough, then I think the sky's the limit for you. So it's all about the passion, how hardworking you are, what do you want to achieve in life. For me, I was very clear. I saw the poor life. We have been at literally grassroots levels, where one meal a day in England was a big thing for us. Today, to living a pretty comfortable life, and I can tell you for sure, it's easier to be comfortable than poor. So I think it's important, knowing that you've come from that background, and knowing that you don't want to go back there, to keep working hard and to keep having that passion and drive, and to share it with many people who think that, being well off is for the limited few. The world gives you everything in abundance. I had nothing. There was no father's money, no mother's money. I had to go out and work for it myself. So to think that you can only become rich or make an impact is for that limited few people in this world. It's not true. If you have an idea, if you have the passion, it should obviously be, your dream should be worth more than your sleep. And then you actually get out of bed, and there's a reason to go out there and do something big.
So I agree with the fact, it's easier to cry in a muck than on a bicycle. But that brings me to my next question to you. The journey has been very long, and you started from nothing, you said. And obviously the initial struggles were a lot more than what we anticipate as individuals. I mean, what we see today is an overnight success, but no one looks at the 10 years of struggle, 15 years of struggle behind that. Any point in time you were like, this is it, I can't do this anymore. And then something happened and you again moved ahead. I like the cab driving incident was an example.
Yeah, my gosh. I mean, see, at the age of 16, 17, you're up for doing any work that makes ends meet. And when you know that you don't want to go back to a certain thing that you're sort of being pulled towards, then it just makes you sort of get out of bed and just go out there and work. For me, it was always, I don't want to wash dishes. I don't want to be handling my father's restaurant. That's his thing. He created that. I want to create something. So I saw my father go from a bus conductor to buying various other businesses and shops and restaurants. And he was like every Indian guy who does when they go abroad. They opened a corner shop running their grocery store business. I was very clear I didn't want to do that. So I think it's more about the drive. There was a drive in me that said, I'm not going to do this. And I know that I want to be successful. I know that I want to achieve new heights. And if you have that drive, then it doesn't matter how many times you fail, you have to get back up and you have to get into the next thing with the same enthusiasm. You have to know when to cut your losses. So for me, I did various business verticals that kept failing. And if I just gave up, then I wouldn't be where I was today. So the idea is to pick yourself up again, know when to cut your losses, and get back into the next big thing with the same enthusiasm every time. And I say it sounds easier than it is, because genuinely, it is difficult to see a failure happen and then say, I know I've got to do the whole thing all over again. But if you don't put that enthusiasm into it, if you as the promoter and the founder are not going to be 100% behind the product, then it's just going to keep failing again and again on you. So it's important to learn from the mistakes, not repeat them, and then just move forward full steam.
So you talk about cutting your losses. That means you've made a lot of investments in your life. Probably it could be your wife. In business, could be that some royals. What is that one investment which is very close to you, very attached to?
And where I cut my loss, or just generally?
No, generally, which is still with you. It doesn't matter if it's a loss making or whatever it is. You still want to.
Do you know what? I've been sort of in and out of so many investments. I've sort of acted like an angel investor, and as an entrepreneur, you know, once you've made your sort of first pool of cash, you sort of try and invest it in right places. So for me, putting it in the bank doesn't excite me. Bank interest doesn't excite me. I want to see my money become 2, 3, 4, 5, 10x. So I've always sort of been in and out of investments and tried to get out at the right time. Some businesses have gone down and I've just had to say, okay, man, that's my loss, it's my loss. And some businesses have given me 2, 3, 4x returns. So there's never been that sort of one business that's sort of, you know, really excited me or said to me, oh, I have to hold on to it tight. There's a price for everything. I think the biggest problem many entrepreneurs or people have is they get so attached to the business that they don't let outside investment come in, and they either ride it all the way up or they ride it all the way down. I think you have to know when to bring in an investment, how to grow, how to take it to the next level, or then you're forever going to be in that one small box running your small corner shop or your small little business. You have, if you're growing and you see pace happening, you have to let people in, you have to let them help you. But yes, dictate your terms. If you have a very profitable business, and I would say it's the best time to raise money than when you're sort of just burning and it's lost, because now the times have changed. Before it used to be a valuation game. Today it's actually about real profits and how sustainable the business is.
So the main takeaway from the last few statements I'll take is the fact that invest in Isha Motors and not on Royal Enfield, because your investments in appreciable assets is where you're going to make more money eventually out of it. And the second factor is that, you know, you dropped out of college and you encourage people to do sport. That's against a typical Indian household family. You know, they want you to take those degrees after degrees after degrees, and they believe education and a secure government job is the way to go. So what is your message for the parents of us millennials?
I think it's there in front of us. Today we are seeing TikTok stars, Instagram stars, social media stars. You're seeing someone that just from a village that came up with an idea to turn bamboo shoots into recyclable bottles. So I think you've just got to realize that if your kid has some innovation and you see a spark in him, you know, don't pull that spark away. Don't let those dreams fade. Today I see my son, and sometimes honestly I try and teach him maths. There's a lot of homeschooling going on, and I realize that there's certain subjects that he's just not good at. Then other things he really excels at. And I think I read something very interesting that you always think your father's wrong till your son thinks you're wrong. And that's what pretty much used to happen. I used to tell my dad, "Dad, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about." And here I am trying to tell my son, this is the right thing to do. And my son's telling me, "Dad, you're wrong." So yeah, it's karma, I guess, coming around. But I think it's important to let children do what they like. You can advise them as to the extent of the knowledge that you have, but they're moving in a different time. And today, we didn't have Instagram 20 years back. So for us, there was no big social media. But today, social media becomes a way of life. A lot of businesses, a lot of entertainment, media industry strives on social media. So let's go with the time. If today, every business requires you to be on a mobile phone or have internet connection, go with the time. In our days, there was no such thing as, you know, having a social media platform, having an account that really expresses and talks about your business. I think today the millennials are living in the best time possible. There is no excuse for not being able to learn something, because you have good old Google. The minute you don't know something, you literally got to type it in, and Google and YouTube turns you into experts into any subject that you wish to learn about.
All right, at this note, I'm going to open the chat for members in the audience if they want to ask any questions regarding his journey, his life. And while I get those comments, one question I'd like to note: do you have anything planned for your son? Will he be a Bollywood actor or businessman?
I think it would be unfair to plan anything for him, because I don't think my father planned anything for me. And like I said just now, a few minutes ago, that parents should not plan their kids' lives. Give them some guidance and let them choose their path. But the way I see my son, the creative, full of energy and full of beans he is, I do see him probably looking into going into Bollywood, I assume, following his mother's footsteps more than his father's.
All right, I have a question from the audience over here. You invest in a lot of businesses and industries from a monetary perspective. But I remember you also have a YouTube channel where you're helping people out in terms of showcasing their talents or what they're doing at the grassroots level, more like a social entrepreneurship. Tell us more about that YouTube channel. Tell us what your views are on social entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So a few of my friends just came up to me and said, Raj, you've done so much for others, and you've seen a lot of people, and you've seen all these, sort of the real heroes out there who've actually turned people's lives around. So one of my friends was a producer. He started saying, look, I've got these interesting stories. Can we sort of talk about them? And I said, sure, why not? So I think one thing led to another. We started the channel with real events and real stories about how students were helping their teachers who they found begging on the streets after many years, to success stories, to some influence from my life. And now it's leading on to more and more talks about startup tips. So from Monday, I start these startup tips on my channel. So I think it's just a way to give back. I put in the time and the effort to create content that will actually create an impact in someone's life, and I hope change their thought and their process of the way they think. So it's all about life, love, karma, and gratitude.
All right. The next question for you is, what is the message you will give to the 17-year-old Raj?
Don't sleep your life away. It happens a lot. I see my nieces at home, they're 16, 17, and for them, a day in the life of a 17-year-old that I've seen today is go to bed at 2, 3 in the morning after watching Netflix and all your other series, and then get up at midday and then decide what you're going to do for the day. Don't sleep your life away, guys. Come up with something, have a dream, have something that you want to do, and then realize what the value of that dream is to you. If sleeping is more important, then by all means sleep. But if that dream is important to you, you need to get out of bed and make that dream happen and turn it into reality. So I've seen today's 17-year-olds, honestly speaking, they're much smarter than the 17-year-olds we were, because they're exposed to so much more. So since you have that exposure, I think use it to your advantage.
All right, I'll have a last question before we ask for your closing comments. What's that one daily ritual which you can't do without and never miss on?
So I wake up at 4:30 every morning, and for me, it's just that 10-15 minutes of meditation. I shut off everything. So it's very hard, and it's the hardest thing, and you can all try it. Shut your eyes for 3 minutes and try to think of nothing. It's next to impossible. It is so hard, and it's easier done than said. So over time, I've been able to sort of shut myself off, and still there are days when, one day I can just think of nothing and shut myself, and I just breathe, and I have this great meditation during Brahma Muhurt. And there are times when it's like I'm watching a whole Bollywood film go on in my mind, and things are coming in and out. But I think if you can start mastering the art of shutting out all thoughts and just deep meditation and deep breathing, I think it's something wonderful. It brings a new spark of energy. And I've only started this recently. I'll be honest with you. I've only started this since the Corona lockdown happened in March. Till then, I used to sort of wake up at 6:37. So I've just sort of added 2 hours more to my life. And I feel like I'm getting so much more done. It just gives me those extra hours and me time. So I mean, actually, I'm enjoying waking up at 4:30 every morning as my daily ritual.
All right, so thank you so much for spending time with us, taking time out of 30 minutes out of your busy schedule among all these businesses, sports, and your personal life, and sharing your journey with all of us, around 2-3 of us over here in this room today. Any final closing comments before we say goodbye to you for today?
No, not really. What I've got to say to the next gen of entrepreneurs is that the opportunity is out there. Just come up with a solution to a problem. The run of the mill, it's all done and dusted. So if you think you're going to build something that's already there and you can't better someone that's already there, try and come up with a solution to a problem. There are problems galore in this world. If you find the solution and you find a cost-effective way to solve it, then sky's the limit for new age entrepreneurs. So I always say it's important to innovate, and then you'll elevate.
Since we're on camera, I'm going to take this opportunity to pitch my own startup in the last 4 years. It's cash flow positive and profitable. But I'll connect with you on email offline, and not taking much time from your schedule and from the audience schedule over here. Thank you so much for spending this Saturday afternoon with all of us. I'm sure all of us have taken a lot from you. Thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
That's been a virtual round of applause for Mr. Kundra for being part of us. And with that, wrapping up Medley number 2 for this Saturday. Handing over this virtual stage, virtual podium back to our amazing master of ceremonies with more quirky games for lineup for us, Pallavi Murarka.